Namaste, Pranam, Gita Dhyanam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatva Manusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshinim. O Bhagavad Gita, with which Lord Narayana himself gave enlightenment to Arjuna, which was included in the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Goddess, showerer of the nectar-like knowledge of non-dualism contained in your 18 chapters. O my affectionate mother, the destroyer of rebirth, I meditate upon thee. And now salutations to Lord Sri Krishna. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devakim Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. O son of Vasudeva, the slayer of Kansa and Chanur, extreme delight for Mother Devaki. O Lord Krishna, the supreme teacher of the universe, my salutations to you. And today we are taking up the reading of 34th Shloka of Karma Yoga, the third adhyay of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Sri Krishna is continuing his teaching pertaining to the senses and the sense objects, the aversion and the attachment to them. Indriyasyendriyasyārthe rāga-dveṣhau vyavasthitau tayor vaśham āgachchhet hyasya paripanthinau. Indriyasya, of the senses. Indriyasyārthe, of the sense objects. Indriyaha arthe, objects of the senses. Now, for any reaction to happen, there are two things are required. One is a medium and one is an object. When we see, we require a medium. We require a medium of sense of sight and then some object. When the sense of sight touches the object, the reaction gets completed. Then that particular seeing the object, that information is captured by this sense of sight and then sent to the brain to analyze and say, oh, okay, this is what I am seeing is a mobile phone. Okay, that is an intricate process in itself. Now what happens? What Sri Krishna is telling about these senses and the sense objects? Indriyasyendriyasyārthe. What he is telling? Rāga-dveṣhau vyavasthitau. Raga is attachment. Dvesha is aversion, hatred. These two, the positive and the negative qualities, the attachment and aversion with the senses and the sense objects is vyavasthitau, is but natural. It is about to happen. Don't get perturbed over it. The attachment and aversion to the indriya and indriyasyārthe, the sense of senses and the sense objects, is very much natural. What is to be done about it? That's what Sri Krishna tells in the next line. Tayoho, of these two, the attachment and aversion of these two, vaśham āgachchetau. Vaśham is sway, under the control. Āgachchhet tau, having na āgachchet. Āgachchet is should come under. Tau, these two, he, verily, tayor na vaśham āgachchetau yasya paripanthinau. One should not come under their sway. One should not come under the control of this attachment and aversion towards the senses and the sense objects. Don't be too friendly with them. Don't be enemy with them. Don't have too much love and affection for them, nor have enmity towards them. Be sthita prajna, balanced. That's what Sri Krishna says. And why? Paripanthinau. He asya paripanthinau. Verily. Asya, his, that man's. The love, aversion, attachment as well as aversion towards senses and the sense objects is verily paripanthinau. They are the enemies. They are the foes. Senses and sense objects will have their existence since they are under the gamut of Prakriti, under the gamut of the projection of the Brahman, which itself is a Maya, which is a delusion. So the senses and the sense objects, having come under the purview of the Prakriti, their being there is natural. There is nothing wrong in it. There is nothing odd in it. Their existence, the attachment and aversion to senses and the sense objects is very much natural. But what is deadly? What is the most harmful thing that Sri Krishna is cautioning us about? The most harmful thing is to come under their sway, to come under the control of this love and attachment, the hatred and aversion towards the senses and the sense objects. Know that senses are there, sense objects are there, and they are all the creation of the Lord. Don't get too attached to it. Don't get so much hatred for it. If something bad you happen to see, don't hate. If you see something good, immediately fall in love with it. No need for that. No need for attachment. No need for hatred or aversion also. These are verily the enemies of the person. Attachment and aversion of the senses for their respective objects are natural. Let none come under their domination. Let none come under their sway, for they are verily his enemies. The attachment and the aversion. Now this particular thing Sri Krishna is telling us after teaching us the teachings given in the 33rd Shloka, where he has said that sadrusham cheshtate swasyaha prakruter jnanavanapi. That is even a wise man behaves in conformity to his nature, to his own nature. Likewise, all beings, they follow their nature, that we have seen. And what is the good of restraining everyone else? Everybody is following their nature. It is but natural. Don't restrain. But in the context of that same thing, allow everyone to behave, to work the way they are working. Whether they are working with attachment to the work or without attachment to the work, whether they are busy in so many activities with focus on the fruit of the work, or they are not worried about fruit of the work, doesn't matter. Don't restrain them. Don't just put a hold on, keep on telling them do it this way, do it this way, do it this way. There is no need. At least they are working. That is good enough. And now Sri Krishna says that let them work. But only thing that is to be careful about is working with the attachment or aversion towards the senses and the sense objects. That is most dangerous. And there also, Sri Krishna is not forcing us. He is giving us the practical view of what is there and what is good, what is not good. So here Sri Krishna says you cannot run away from senses and sense objects. That cannot happen. And earlier also Sri Krishna has categorically told us that just by repeating 100 times, I am not bound by my senses, is not going to make you control your senses. For that, first of all, you must tame your mind. You must put your mind to the Lord. You must put your mind to the Mother. And then your senses will come under the sway of your mind. And then your mind won't be under the sway of senses and sense objects. So, here Sri Krishna is telling this is what normally happens. These senses and sense objects, they are natural. You cannot run away from them. You cannot escape from them. Having taken birth in the play of this creation, you have taken a birth in this physical body. You are a part of this creation. You are part of senses and sense objects. You cannot escape. But don't come under there. Don't allow these senses and sense objects to dominate you. That's it. Why? They are the biggest enemies. The senses, and if they rule you, you are destroyed. If your attachment and aversion towards the sense objects rules a person, he is gone. So, with this understanding, keep on doing the work and allow everyone to do their work. Don't restrain, but let this understanding be there that the attachment and hatred towards the senses and the sense objects, let they not dominate us. That should be the thing. Life in the body and in the senses is not an end in itself. It is only a passing phase. Senses have been serviceable for the evolution of the subhuman into the human. Because of the senses only, there has been this evolution from lower orders to the level of a human being. From the lower animals to the level of human beings. It is only because of this association of senses and the sense objects. And the evolution has to further progress. From human, what is next? Like Sri Ramakrishna, like Swami Vivekananda said, our next goal from the human is divine. Now, too much of dependence on these senses and the sense objects won't allow us to evolve to the level of divinity if we are attached with these senses and sense objects, or if we develop even hatred for these senses and sense objects. That also will not allow us, because hatred, the ill feeling will always keep us breaking down. Feeling of hatred, the ill feeling for someone will always keep on churning in our mind and bring us down from our path of evolution. Now the goal for the human is to evolve into the divine. Senses are stumbling blocks to it. They are therefore labeled the enemies of the spiritual aspirant. They require to be transcended. And that's why Sri Krishna says, let them not put you under control. Tayor na vaśham āgachchetau. āgachchetau is set for two: love, attachment, as well as hatred. Let them not put you under their control. So, we have to transcend. We have to climb over both attachment as well as hatred towards the senses and sense objects. It is from attachments and aversions that they get their power to function. Only because of attachment and hatred and aversion, the senses, they get their power to function and tempt a person towards sense objects. When these dualities are done away with, the senses cease to be enemies. When I get rid of this attachment or aversion, the same senses who otherwise bring my downfall by going on towards the sense objects, the same senses, instead of being my enemies, they become my truest friends. Because then they don't see these sense objects from enjoyment point of view. They start seeing divinity in the sense objects, and that helps me to elevate my mind, to evolve my mind to the level of divinity. Likes and dislikes are created by the egoistic attitude. Because of I and mine, because I differentiate myself from the other entity, this likes and dislike, they start getting created. If there is no two, if there is only me, I and my Lord, and ultimately soham, saha aham, I am He, I am the Lord, I am my mother, I am one with my mother. If that is the thing, if that realization happens, then there is no like or dislike for anything. There is no second element to like or dislike. When this hurtful attitude is changed into helpful devotional attitude, the likes and dislikes melt away. Then, when these negative emotions, we turn their direction from sense objects towards divinity. The anger, the jealousy, the hatred, and all these negative qualities. When we change their target from sense objects to the divinity, to the divine objects, then there is a total change. Then the senses, in their turn, they get tamed down. Because there is nothing else, then remains nothing else to hate, nothing else to dislike. If I have put my hatred onto the Lord, if I have put my anger onto the Lord, oh Lord, you are not showing me, revealing yourself to me. You are not giving me the true knowledge. You are not making me know who I am. Put all that anger, focus it onto the Lord. Put it onto the divine instead of putting it on some sense objects. So that is what Sri Krishna says. Don't come under their sway. You transcend the love and the hatred for the senses and the sense objects. Don't allow this love and hatred overpower you, because these are the greatest of the enemies. Now let us see what Sri Ramakrishna says on his teaching on this particular, the meaning of this shloka. When can desire and hatred, the enemies of man, be destroyed? This attachment to gain something, desire, wish, and hatred, when these two enemies, when they can be destroyed? And Sri Ramakrishna tells when it can happen. These propensities of the mind prove themselves enemies when directed to worldly desires, worldly affairs. They become allies when directed Godward. What Sri Krishna says, that transcend them. Your likes, your dislikes, your attachments, your hatred, all turn them to divine, turn them to Godwards, and that is what Sri Ramakrishna also says. Desires for worldly things must be converted into desire for the God. Because that is our ultimate objective. We have taken birth as human beings to evolve. This is not our end. Our end point is the divinity. For that, we have got this opportunity to take a birth in the human body. With this mind, the wonderful tool, with this intellect, the wonderful tool that Lord has given. And making use of this, we have to change the direction of these likes and dislikes, of these desires and hatred, not to the worldly objects, not to the sense objects, but divert their focus onto the divine, turn them Godwards. Desires for worldly things must be converted into the desire for God. Let man be annoyed with God and angry with him for not revealing himself. If at all I have to, okay, I cannot get rid of the anger aspect, the tamas aspect. Then what to do? Should I use this anger, element of anger onto the worldly things? That will result on further downfall. Instead, let me convert this anger. Let me redirect this anger towards divinity, towards God. Why you are not revealing to me? Oh mother, why you are hiding your sweet face from me? Why you are not giving me your vision? I want to see how my mother looks. Put that anger on the Holy Mother, on the Divine Mother. Desire and anger cannot be totally destroyed, but they can be transmuted and then they become harmless. This is the teaching of Sri Ramakrishna in connection with what Sri Krishna has said in this 34th Shloka, that transcend beyond the attachment and aversion towards the senses and the sense objects, which are verily the enemies on our spiritual path. So that was 34th Shloka and Sri Krishna's wonderful teaching. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Sri Ramakrishna. Jai Thakur. Jai Swamiji.